There is technology that is directly aimed at identifying people based upon the way they move and walk. That signature is as powerful as facial recognition.
The FBI traced every single call Nancy Guthrie made in the final 48 hours of her life as a free woman. And when they zeroed in on the very last interaction she had before vanishing into the night, it led them straight to someone sitting at her own dinner table just hours earlier. Her son-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, was the last known person to communicate with the 84-year-old before blood appeared on her porch. Her pacemaker went silent, and she disappeared from her Tucson home without a trace. What investigators discovered about that final evening together sent the case spiraling in a direction nobody saw coming. A last goodbye nobody saw coming. Before we get into what happened to Nancy Guthrie, you need to understand something that most people covering this case have completely overlooked. The person who last saw her alive was not a stranger. It was not some masked figure in the night. It was her own son-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, a man who had just spent a perfectly normal evening with her over dinner and board games. On Saturday, January 31st, 2026, Nancy called an Uber at 5:32 in the evening from her home in the Catalina Foothills neighborhood of Tucson, Arizona. She was headed to her eldest daughter Annie's house, just 4 miles away, for a family dinner and game night. Nothing about the evening felt unusual. After dinner, wrapped up around 9:30 to 9:45 that night, Tommaso drove Nancy back to her home. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos later confirmed to the New York Times that Cioni dropped her off and made sure she got inside safely before leaving. Surveillance data backs this up. The garage door opened at 9:48 and closed at 9:50. Nancy was inside. Tommaso drove away, and that was it. That was the last time anyone confirmed seeing Nancy Guthrie alive. Now, here is where things start to get deeply unsettling. There is a 4-hour gap between the moment that the garage door closed and the first sign of something terribly wrong. At 1:47 in the morning on February 1st, Nancy's Google Nest doorbell camera was disconnected. At 2:12, the motion system picked up a figure near the home, but because Nancy did not have a paid Nest subscription, no video was initially available. Then at 2:28, her pacemaker stopped transmitting to the monitoring app on her phone. Her phone was found inside the house the next day. So was her wallet, her car keys, and her daily heart medication. She never called anyone after Tommaso left. She never texted. She never reached out for help. Investigators were left staring at an impossible timeline. Tommaso was the last known person to see her. He knew the layout of her home. He knew where the cameras were. And between his departure and the apparent abduction, only 4 hours had passed. These facts alone made him an immediate focus of the investigation. But what investigators found next about Tommaso's relationship with Nancy would split public opinion right down the middle and ignite one of the most explosive family controversies in recent true crime history. The son-in-law everyone suspected. The internet had already made up its mind. Within days of Nancy's disappearance, Tommaso Cioni's name was everywhere. Social media exploded with theories, accusations, and outright fabrications. But the actual relationship between Tommaso and Nancy painted a picture that was nothing like what the internet wanted to believe. Tommaso Cioni married Annie Guthrie in September 2006 and has been living in Tucson ever since, working as an AP biology and 6th grade science teacher at Basis Oro Valley for over 15 years. Outside of teaching, he played electric bass in a local post-punk band called Early Black, wrote poetry in Italian, studied lizards, and made homemade pasta from scratch. Annie Guthrie celebrated their 10th wedding anniversary on Facebook by calling Tommaso the most beautiful, intelligent, sensitive, talented, and also most hilarious person she had ever known. Family friend Zach Lind, the drummer from Jimmy Eat World, publicly stated that Annie and Tommy are amazing people and dedicated parents who also love and care for Nancy on a daily basis. On Christmas Day 2025, just weeks before the disappearance, Nancy posted a family photo on Facebook showing everyone in matching pajamas, Tommaso standing right beside her holding the family dog. None of this stopped the accusations. Journalist Ashley Banfield reported on her podcast that a trusted law enforcement source identified Cioni as the prime suspect. When challenged on Dan Abrams' SiriusXM show, Banfield doubled down, saying her source told her things had really tightened up inside the sheriff's department after her report. She added a cryptic line that stuck with the public. "When they take shots at you, you are standing on the target." FBI agents were seen at Annie and Tommaso's home on February 7th for approximately 3 hours, with camera flashes visible from inside and deputies emerging, with blue gloves and evidence bags. Annie's car was impounded as evidence. Unverified claims about $50 million in gambling debts to a Mexican casino spread like wildfire online before being completely debunked by multiple outlets. Then, on February 16th, Sheriff Nanos issued a definitive statement. The Guthrie family, including all siblings and spouses, had been cleared as possible suspects. He called the accusations not only wrong, but cruel, and confirmed the family had been ruled out within the first few days and had been 100% cooperative. The family had been cleared on paper, but what the initial investigation uncovered about the crime scene itself revealed a level of chaos and incompetence that would make even seasoned detectives shake their heads in disbelief. The investigation that almost fell apart before it even started. What most people do not realize about the Nancy Guthrie case is that the investigation nearly collapsed under its own weight in the very first week. The mistakes were not minor. They were the kind of errors that can make or break a case permanently. When the Pima County Sheriff's Department arrived at Nancy's home on February 2nd, the scene was immediately alarming. Blood droplets on the front porch were later confirmed through DNA testing to be Nancy's. Her phone and wallet sat untouched inside. There were signs of forced entry, small glass fragments near the front entrance, and the doorbell camera appeared to have been tampered with. Sheriff Nanos stated bluntly that she did not walk away, and that they believed she was forced to leave that residence against her will. The FBI joined almost immediately, and at its peak, around 400 investigators were deployed around the clock. The case generated over 50,000 tips. But behind the scenes, critical errors were piling up. The crime scene was released prematurely, a failure Nanos himself later admitted. Investigators had to return days later to recover additional evidence they had missed. A roof-mounted camera was completely overlooked during the initial inspection. The doorbell camera footage was initially declared unrecoverable because Nancy did not have a paid Nest subscription, only for the FBI to later recover images from residual back-end data that should have been pursued from day one. It got worse. The county's high-tech search aircraft pilot had been disciplined following a dispute with Nanos and reassigned to street patrol before the case even happened. The department's most experienced search and rescue deputy had also been transferred to patrol in late 2025 without replacement. At least 6 named individuals were publicly connected to the investigation, and more than 20 people were detained and released. Carlos Palazuelos was detained during a traffic stop 60 miles south of Tucson and released the next day, telling reporters he hoped they got the suspect because he was not it. Luke Anthony Daly was removed from a residence 2 miles from Nancy's home during a SWAT operation alongside his 77-year-old mother, held for hours, and released with his attorney confirming no link whatsoever. Dominic Evans, an elementary school teacher who played drums in Tommaso's band, was targeted by online conspiracy theorists who claimed his build matched the doorbell footage. He told the New York Times that he felt like someone had taken his name for clickbait and entertainment while innocent people got hurt. Meanwhile, the primary suspect remained the masked figure captured on the recovered doorbell footage. The FBI released 4 black and white images showing a male approximately 5'9" to 5'10", average build, wearing a ski mask and gloves, carrying a distinctive black Ozark Trail backpack sold exclusively at Walmart, and wearing a visible gun holster. But the ransom note that arrived just days after Nancy vanished contained details so specific and so chilling that even hardened FBI veterans admitted they had rarely seen anything like it. $6 million in Bitcoin and a deadline. That changed everything. The ransom demands did not come through the mail or through a phone call. They came through email sent to CBS Tucson affiliate KOLD-TV, a second Tucson station, and TMZ, spaced roughly 12 hours apart. And what those emails contained sent the investigation spiraling in an entirely new direction. TMZ founder Harvey Levin provided the most detailed public account of the first note's contents. He described it as a letter that spelled out precisely what the kidnappers wanted done, what the consequences would be if they did not get it, and how the demands were layered with escalating deadlines. The note demanded $6 million in Bitcoin, included a verified Bitcoin wallet address, and set 2 deadlines. The first was 5 p.m. on Thursday, February 5th, which Levin said had to do with the demand itself. The second was 5 p.m. on Monday, February 9th, which had more to do with a consequence, a more serious consequence. What made the note terrifying was its specificity. It contained details that had not been made public: the location of Nancy's Apple Watch, information about a floodlight at the home, and descriptions of what Nancy was wearing that night. The grammar was described as perfect, structured, and layered. However, a retired FBI agent noticed the use of the abbreviation USD for dollars, a term Americans rarely use, suggesting the author might be foreign or that the note could be a sophisticated hoax. Around February 18th, TMZ received a second ransom email that was described as more graphic and chilling than the first. This one demanded payment in a highly sophisticated cryptocurrency other than Bitcoin and used a different crypto account. It referenced media coverage of the case as a trigger for the demands. A separate series of emails came from someone claiming not to be the kidnapper, but to have information about the kidnapper, offering it for 1 Bitcoin, roughly $70,000. TMZ confirmed the tone was clearly different and clearly not from the same person who wrote the original ransom note. Then there was the fake ransom. Derek Colella, a 42-year-old man from Hawthorne, California, was arrested after texting Nancy Guthrie and Tommaso Cioni with the message, "Did you get the Bitcoin? We are waiting on our end for the transaction." The FBI traced the line to his Gmail account and home. He was charged with transmitting a demand for ransom in interstate commerce and had absolutely nothing to do with the actual kidnapping. Both real ransom deadlines passed without confirmed payment or contact. Communications then stopped abruptly. No proof of life was ever provided. CNN analyst John Miller offered a haunting possibility: that this may have been a planned home invasion that went completely sideways and was re-engineered into a kidnap for ransom because the suspect's options had changed. The ransom notes were digital, which meant traditional handwriting analysis was useless. But the DNA evidence collected from Nancy's home and a single black glove found in an open field 2 miles away was about to reveal something that nobody expected. The DNA that matched nobody. If this case is ever going to be solved, the answer almost certainly lies in the forensic evidence. And the forensic evidence in the Nancy Guthrie case has been simultaneously the most promising and the most frustrating aspect of the entire investigation. Blood found on the front porch was confirmed through DNA testing to belong to Nancy Guthrie, establishing that violence occurred at the home. During extensive searches of the surrounding area, approximately 16 gloves were found. Most belonged to volunteers and searchers who had discarded them. But one black glove, discovered roughly 2 miles from Nancy's home in a field near a roadside, appeared to match gloves worn by the masked suspect in the doorbell footage. The FBI extracted a DNA profile from that glove. The result came back as an unknown male. But when the profile was run through CODIS, the FBI's national DNA database, there was no match. The suspect had never been arrested for a qualifying felony. Even more troubling, the glove DNA did not match the unknown DNA found at Nancy's property, raising the unsettling possibility that these samples came from different individuals entirely. Inside Nancy's home, the forensic picture was even more complicated. Most DNA recovered traced to individuals with a reason to be there, including family members, landscapers, and service workers. But some samples contained mixed genetic material from multiple people, creating severe processing difficulties. The samples were sent to a private lab in Florida rather than the FBI's Quantico facility, a decision that drew sharp criticism. Former Chief Deputy Richard Castigar stated firmly that all the evidence should have gone to Quantico from the beginning. Forensic science professor April Stonehouse from Arizona State University explained the core problem. The samples likely contained approximately 90% of the victim's genetic material and only about 10% from a suspect, making separation extremely difficult. C.E.C. Moore, chief genetic genealogist at Parabon Nanolabs, offered cautious hope by explaining that even if standard profiling fails, the same sample could potentially yield a different type of profile suitable for investigative genetic genealogy, the same technique that cracked the Golden State Killer case. Forensic scientist Peter Valentin of the University of New Haven urged investigators to look beyond DNA entirely. He pointed out that if people went into that home to take Nancy, there must be evidence of their presence, and that investigators should be looking at hair, fibers, and other trace evidence that may have been overlooked. While the forensic evidence sat in labs being analyzed and reanalyzed, one voice that had remained almost completely silent throughout the ordeal was about to break through in a way that would bring millions of people to tears. A daughter's tears and the words that stopped a nation. Savannah Guthrie had spent her entire career delivering the news to millions of Americans every morning. But on February 4th, 2026, she was no longer the anchor. She was a daughter who did not know if her mother was alive or dead. And when she spoke, the entire country listened. Savannah stepped away from all professional duties, including planned co-hosting of the 2026 Winter Olympics opening ceremonies, to focus entirely on finding her mother. On February 4th, she appeared alongside her siblings Annie and Cameron in their first public video, directly addressing whoever had taken their mother. "We want to hear from you," she said, "and we are ready to listen. Please reach out to us." 3 days later, on February 7th, the three siblings held hands in a second video that appeared to respond directly to the ransom demands. "We received your message and we understand," they said. "We beg you now to return our mother to us. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay." But it was the statement on February 24th that truly devastated the nation. Savannah announced a $1 million family reward while publicly acknowledging for the first time what many feared. "Every hour and minute and second and every long night has been agony," she said. "We still believe in a miracle. We still believe she can come home. We also know she may be lost. She may already be gone. She may have gone home to the Lord she loves, dancing in heaven with her mom and dad." The family simultaneously donated $500,000 to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Annie Guthrie took a markedly different approach. She appeared in the family videos but never served as the primary spokesperson and gave no individual media interviews. She made no public statements addressing the suspicion directed at her husband, Tommaso. Her silence was interpreted variously as evidence of legal advice, family unity, or simply the impossibility of responding to conspiracy theories while your mother is missing. On March 2nd, day 30, Savannah, Annie, and Tommaso walked arm in arm to the growing tribute of yellow flowers outside Nancy's home. Audible sobbing was captured on camera. They left a handwritten note that read, "Mama, we miss you so much. Our hearts are broken. We are standing on ash, on scorched earth. But Mom, Though we are surrounded by so much darkness and uncertainty, our love burns bright. We love you, Mommy, our best friend. President Donald Trump personally called Savannah on February 4th after an NBC interview offering federal resources. Savannah later posted that the $1 million reward could be paid in cash and that tips could remain anonymous. The family had done everything in their power. They had begged. They had offered a fortune. They had laid bare their grief for the entire world to see. But as the investigation entered its second month, the experts were deeply divided on whether Nancy Guthrie would ever be found alive. That is where the Nancy Guthrie case stands today. Do you think Nancy is still alive out there somewhere, or has the worst already happened? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one,